Welcome back to the English Daily Podcast. I'm Anna, and today we're talking about a tiny animal with a very big job, the honeybee. Bees are fascinating because they do not simply fly from flower to flower. They communicate, solve problems, organize their work, and help produce much of the food we enjoy. This episode is perfect for learning English connected to nature, science, and everyday responsibility.
And I'm Jake. Anna, when people hear the word bee, they often think about honey or a painful sting. But bees are much more interesting than that. They are social insects, which means they live and work together in an organized group. Today, we'll discover how bees share information, learn some useful vocabulary, and discuss simple ways people can help pollinators.
Let's begin with an important word, pollinator. A pollinator is an animal that moves pollen from one flower to another. Pollen is the fine, powdery material plants use to reproduce. When a bee visits a flower, pollen sticks to its body. Then, when the bee visits another flower, some of that pollen is transferred. This helps the plant make seeds and fruit. Bees are famous pollinators, but butterflies, moths, birds, bats, and even some beetles do this job too.
So, if there were no pollinators, would all our food disappear?
Not all of it, but many important crops would become much harder to grow. Apples, strawberries, almonds, cucumbers, pumpkins, and coffee all depend partly or greatly on pollination. The word crop means a plant grown for food or for sale. We can say, farmers are worried about protecting their crops. Pollination does not always require bees, because wind and other animals can help, but bees are especially efficient. They visit many flowers during one trip and carry pollen from place to place.
That brings us to the first mystery. How does one bee tell the other bees where to find a good flower? Bees cannot use a smartphone or draw a map, but they have a remarkable communication system. A worker bee can return to the hive and perform what is called the waggle dance. To waggle means to move from side to side in a lively way. During this dance, the bee shakes its body while moving in a particular direction.
The dance contains information about both direction and distance. Imagine the sun is at the top of a map. The angle of the bee's dance compared with the sun tells other bees which direction to fly. The length of the straight, waggling part gives them an idea of how far away the flowers are. A longer waggle generally means a farther destination. In vocabulary, destination means the place where someone or something is going. For example, the garden was our destination.
That is incredible. But how can the other bees understand a dance? Do they watch it like people watch a performance?
In a way, yes. The observing bees touch the dancer with their antennae, which are the thin feelers on an insect's head. They also notice the movement, smell, and taste of the nectar the dancer brought back. Nectar is the sweet liquid inside many flowers. By combining these clues, the bees can decide whether a trip is worth making. This is a useful phrase, worth making. If something is worth doing, it is valuable enough to spend time or effort on. We can say, studying a little every day is worth doing.
So the waggle dance is like a natural GPS system. Do bees use the same dance for every kind of flower?
The basic message is similar, but the situation can change. Bees also communicate through smells. A flower has a particular scent, and nectar can have a particular flavor. When a bee returns with food, the smell on its body can guide other bees toward the same kind of flower. Bees may also release chemical signals called pheromones. These signals can warn the colony about danger, help members recognize their own group, or influence the behavior of other bees.
You just used the word colony. A colony is a group of animals living together, especially insects such as bees or ants. What does a bee colony look like inside?
A honeybee colony usually has one queen, many female worker bees, and male drones. The queen's main role is to lay eggs. Worker bees do almost everything else. They clean the hive, feed young bees, make wax, guard the entrance, and collect nectar and pollen. Drones have a different role. They mate with a queen from another colony. The word role means the function or responsibility a person or animal has in a situation. At work, for example, each team member may have a different role.
Do worker bees have fixed jobs, or can they change roles?
They can change. Young workers often stay inside the hive and care for the developing bees. As they grow older, they may become guards or foragers. A forager is an animal that searches for and collects food. This is another useful word, flexible. Flexible describes something that can change easily when conditions change. A bee colony is flexible because it can adjust its workers' jobs according to temperature, food supply, and danger.
That sounds a little like a successful human team. People may have different skills, but they also need to respond when a problem appears. What problems are bees facing today?
Bees face several challenges. One is habitat loss. Habitat means the natural home of a plant or animal. When fields become buildings, roads, or very tidy lawns, bees may lose places to feed and nest. Another challenge is pesticide use. Pesticides are chemicals used to kill insects or other organisms that can damage crops. Some pesticides can harm bees, especially when they are used carelessly or when bees meet them on flowers.
Are pesticides the only reason bee populations can decline?
No. Bees can also suffer from parasites, diseases, extreme weather, and a lack of varied food. If bees find only one kind of flower for a short period, they may not receive all the nutrients they need. Climate change can also affect the timing of flowers. If flowers bloom earlier because of warm weather, but bees are not active yet, the bees and plants may become out of sync. Out of sync means not happening at the right time together.
That phrase is useful beyond science too. If two people misunderstand each other, we might say, our expectations were out of sync. What can an ordinary person do to support bees?
The easiest action is to grow a variety of bee-friendly plants. Native plants are especially helpful because local pollinators have evolved alongside them. If you have a garden, choose flowers that bloom in different seasons. This gives bees a steady source of food. If you do not have a garden, you can use a balcony, a window box, or even a few pots. Every small space can provide nectar and pollen.
What kinds of plants should people choose?
That depends on the region, but herbs such as lavender, mint, rosemary, and thyme can be useful, and many flowering plants attract bees. It is best to ask a local gardening center which plants are native and safe. Avoid treating open flowers with harmful chemicals. You can also leave a small area of your yard a little wild. A perfectly clean garden may look nice, but fallen leaves, hollow stems, and bare soil can provide shelter for insects.
Some people are nervous around bees. What should they do if a bee flies nearby?
Stay calm and move slowly. Bees usually do not want to sting people, they are interested in flowers, water, or food. Do not wave your arms or hit at the bee. If a bee lands on you, wait quietly or gently move away. It is also important to distinguish between bees and wasps. Wasps can be more interested in sweet drinks and human food, especially late in summer. The verb distinguish means to recognize the difference between two things.
That is a practical tip. I also like the idea that helping bees is not only about protecting one species. It is about protecting an entire ecosystem. An ecosystem is a community of living things and the environment they depend on.
Exactly. Pollinators connect plants, animals, farms, and people. When plants produce fruit and seeds, those resources feed other animals. Healthy plants also help protect soil, store carbon, and make neighborhoods more pleasant. This connection is sometimes called biodiversity. Biodiversity means the variety of living species in a place. A diverse environment is often more resilient, which means better able to recover from problems.
Before we finish, let's practice a few expressions. First, from place to place means moving between different locations. Second, according to means based on particular information. For example, according to the bee's dance, the flowers are nearby. Third, play a role means have an effect or responsibility. We can say, pollinators play an important role in food production.
And here is a speaking tip for learners. When explaining a process, use sequence words such as first, then, after that, and finally. You could explain the waggle dance like this: first, a bee finds flowers. Then, it returns to the hive. After that, it performs a dance that shows direction and distance. Finally, other bees fly to the flowers. These words make your explanation clear and organized.
Let's recap. Bees are pollinators, so they move pollen between flowers and help plants produce fruit and seeds. Honeybees communicate through the waggle dance, which gives information about the direction and distance of food. They also use smell, taste, touch, and chemical signals. A colony has different members with different roles, and worker bees can change jobs as conditions change.
Bees face habitat loss, pesticides, diseases, parasites, extreme weather, and changes in the timing of flowers. We can help by planting a variety of native flowers, avoiding harmful chemicals, leaving some natural shelter, and staying calm when a bee is nearby. Today's key vocabulary was pollinator, crop, destination, colony, forager, habitat, pesticide, distinguish, ecosystem, biodiversity, and resilient.
Thanks for joining us on the English Daily Podcast. Try using 3 of today's words in your own sentences. For example, describe a local ecosystem, explain why a crop needs pollinators, or talk about a team member's role. Learning becomes stronger when you connect new vocabulary to your own life.
We hope this episode helped you see bees in a new way and gave you useful English for talking about nature and science. If you enjoyed the conversation, please subscribe to the English Daily Podcast, leave a review, and share this episode with another English learner. Keep listening, keep noticing the world around you, and we'll see you next time.